paused. Okay, I think I've got it now. Hi everyone, this is Cindy and I'm with Alpha Omega Accounting. And today we are going to go through this, how the stimulus package is going to affect you. So if you have any questions, just throw them into the chat and Scott's going to be monitoring that and he'll tell me if you have a question. Or you can unmute yourself and ask your question. So we've already done a couple of these, so some of you may already have been on those. We're going to start with the stimulus payments. They are doing $1,200 per adult. And they are basing this off of your last tax return that was done. So if you file jointly, then you'll get it as one check. So you'll get the $2,400 as one check. If you file married filing separate, then you'll each get separate checks. Or if you're single, you'll get a separate check. It's also $500 per child. That child has to be on your tax return. So if you are the head of household, but if you're divorced and you claim the child on your return, then you are the one that will get the check. If your ex claims the child on theirs, then they are the one that will get the check. You have to be a U.S. resident. Now that's a resident, not a citizen, with a valid Social Security number, and you cannot be a dependent of someone else. Of course, the children can be a dependent. So what this means is that if you're claiming you're an older child, somebody with, that is just disabled or something like that, then the disabled person will not get a check at all. Same if you are claiming your parents, although if your parents are claimed on your return and they also get Social Security, they haven't said yet whether or not they will get a check in addition to the check that you get. So, some of this is still up in the air. Keep in mind that they just passed this and they don't have all of the regulations out yet. Your payment is reduced when your income goes over $75,000 if you're filing single or married filing separate. For married taxpayers, if your income is over $150,000, then your stimulus payment is going to be reduced. It'll be reduced by $5 for every $100 you're over the threshold until you no longer get it. So most people are going to get this, but there is no payment for individuals when your income goes over $99,000, or for a single taxpayer, or $198,000 for married. So once you have hit those limits, then you're not going to get a payment at all.
Is that net income or gross income?
That is the AGI, which is basically net for a taxpayer. Okay, it's expected to be mailed within 3 weeks from the 1st of April, but it is based on your most recently filed tax return. So if you have already filed 2019, then it's going to be based on that return. And if you had direct deposit, it will be deposited into the checking account that you received that check from, or that you had on your prior year return. If you have not filed 2019, then it's going to be based on your 2018 return. The ones that are going to have an issue with this is if they have changed checking accounts between, or if they've closed an account, then we're going to have an issue with this. And what will happen is that they will still try to deposit it into your old account. It should bounce back because your account won't be valid anymore. And then they will mail it out. They will not try to redeposit it. So if you have it in there based on an old account, then you're just going to have to wait. Checks that are mailed instead of done by direct deposit, they are expecting to take an additional 3 to 4 weeks. If you are on Social Security only and do not file, you will still receive a check. You just won't, it'll be mailed to you instead of a direct deposit. Unless you have your Social Security already set up as a direct deposit, then right now they are thinking that they are going to be direct depositing it into that account. However, they have not said if they are gonna be able to do that, because it's the IRS that is pulling these, not Social Security. And Social Security and IRS don't talk to each other, so they may not have that information to be able to deposit it. But they're trying to get this so that they can do that, but right now they are saying it probably won't work that way. So we'll see. There is a penalty-free retirement plan distribution. So if you are taking money, if you need to take money out of the retirement account, and you are not retirement age yet, then normally there is a 10% penalty for early withdrawal of retirement funds. Only for 2020, if you take that money out now, there will not be a penalty. You still have to pay the tax on it, but not the penalty. So you don't have that 10% penalty in addition to the tax. It's only available for COVID-19 only. So if you take it out just because you want to buy a house, it doesn't work. You have to actually be diagnosed with the virus, in quarantine, which 90% of the population is right now, furloughed or laid off, unable to work because of childcare issues, because your child's school has been closed, or the closing or reduced hours of a business that's owned by the taxpayer. So, if your business if you have been laid off and your business is closed, you have to own it in order to do this retirement plan thing. But 95% of people are going to fall under the quarantined portion of this, and you're done. So if you have been thinking about trying to pull funds from a retirement account, but have been avoiding doing it because of the penalty, do it in the next 3 weeks, because then you won't have any of that penalty stuff on there. There are no taxes at all due if you recontribute it to an eligible retirement plan within 3 years after taking it out. How they're going to track this, we don't know. So, and they haven't given us any idea of how we were supposed to indicate that that is what you are planning on doing. So I don't know that I would hold your breath on that one, because they may or may not finally have the stuff on how you're going to put this money back in yet. But right now they don't. There are other provisions in here. You can do up to a $300 contribution deduction above your standard deduction. But this only applies to people who take standard deduction on their taxes. So if you're right now for your 2019 taxes, your standard deduction for a married filing joint return is $24,200. Okay, so what this does is it moves this to $24,500. So you'll have a $300 extra contribution that you can do in 2019. or for 2020 only. If you itemize your deduction, then your charitable contribution limit is suspended. Normally, you can only do 50% of your income as charitable contributions. But for 2020, you can do as much as you want and not be penalized. Mostly this is because a lot of charities are really hurting right now because nobody has any money to do the normal contributions. Churches are having a really hard time right now because of tithes and offerings are way down because people don't have any money. There's a filing deadline change. I'm sure you've already heard of this. The filing deadline for only your 2019 taxes has moved to July 15th. If you file an extension, it will only go to your normal extension date of October 15th. It's not going to give you an extra 3 months. So keep that in mind. If you normally file an extension, then it's still going to be the same deadline. They're not moving that deadline unless, of course, something wild happens and they have to do this again. Your payments that were due on, sorry, that should say April 15th, not April 4th. Okay. Payments that were due, that are due on April 15th were extended to July 15th. So if you have your payment for your taxes for 2019 would have been due on April 15th. And your first estimated tax payment for 2020 would have been due on April 15th. Those have been moved to July 15th. However, the June 15th, 2020 payment is still due on June 15th. So what's going to happen, and this is going to be really weird, so we have your July, or your first quarter for 2020, if you're doing estimated payments, would be due on April 15th. Your second quarter for 2020 would be due normally on June 15th. So now what's going to happen is your second quarter payment is going to be due before your first quarter payment. So you'll have your your second quarter payment is still going to be due on June 15th, but your first quarter payment will not be due until July 15th. So keep in mind that you still have to pay it, but it's going to be, this is going to be a weird year. We already knew that. But so if you do estimated tax payments and you're not sure which one to do, I would just split them in two. Just do your normal one for the 15th, or for your June 15th one, and we'll just take and we'll split it in two instead of doing, trying to calculate it all out. We'll just have you do, we'll base it on a half a year instead of on the quarters like we normally do. And then we'll just split it in two. Do one on the 15th of June and one on the 15th of July. Now keep in mind, these are going to be a lot lower than they were in prior years because of everybody getting laid off. So some of these are going to be very much changed. If you've already filed your taxes and you owe money, the payment is not due until July 15th. It's normally due on April 15th. Now, if you're getting a refund, those are still going out as soon as possible. It's currently between 7 and 10 days after your e-file is accepted. So, but that could, the IRS is just as stretched as everybody else. So this could stretch out if they start getting a bunch of refunds in. Now, I'm going to tell you that I have had people coming out of the woodwork that have not filed in several years, suddenly wanting to get caught up on their taxes because they will not get a stimulus check if they aren't caught up on their taxes. So keep in mind that, yeah, the IRS right now, their normal filings are going on, everything's fine. But when they get this inundation of all of these people that have not filed yet, it's gonna slow them down a lot. So the sooner you get stuff done, the faster it's gonna be, especially if you're expecting a refund. Extension deadlines were also affected. So what this does, this applies to all individuals, trusts, C Corps, S Corps, and partnerships, gift tax returns. You do not have to be sick or in quarantine for it to apply. They just applied it across the board. Normally, a lot of times they'll do this for disaster areas anyways, such as when they had the hurricanes down in Florida, they moved the tax deadline, but only for Florida. And so, but this is just nationwide. They just did it for everyone. It does not apply to tax exempt organizations, payroll, excise, or estate taxes. So if you need to do an estate tax or anything like that, then you still have your normal deadlines. We can still do an extension for you though. So, you know, if everybody is out of your office, like a lot of churches, nobody is in the office right now, they're not going to be able to get their returns in by April 15th when they're supposed to. And so we can just file an extension and you'll be fine. But just keep in mind, payroll and excise tax does not ever have an extension date. They have, you cannot extend those no matter what. So payroll and excise taxes are going to be due on the 15th of every month no matter what. There are a lot of tax credits and stuff that we have coming up, and they also have done some that you can actually have your payroll taxes only for this year, that you don't have to pay it until next year, but that's just going to increase how much you're paying next year. So you got to weigh that against what you're actually, how your business cash flow is in the first place. If you, we did a class on this one yesterday. So if you want information on that class, just drop me an email and I'll send you the slides for that class. Retirement accounts. In order to put money into a retirement account, it is normally you have, if you're putting money in for 2019, then you have to put the money in by April 15th. They have moved that date to July 15th with the extension, or with the filing extension. They have done the same thing for an HSA or Archer account. So that means that you can still contribute to your 2019 retirement accounts up until July 15th. So make sure that you get those payments in before July 15th so it will count on the correct tax return that you want it to count on. Unemployment. They increased the funds for unemployment. This is state by state information of which ones were done, because I have clients all across the country. And so if I would have mentioned every single state, we would be here all day. So this one is just for all of these. Now then, the thing is that it is taking them between 3 and 5 weeks now to process unemployment checks, simply because of having so many people hit the system at one time. I know that several states' websites went down last week completely. They are waiving the employment search requirement across the country. So even if it says on there that you have to be searching for gainful employment, that has been waived for 2020. They have also waived the wait time before you can apply. Normally you have to wait a week after you've been laid off or furloughed before you can apply. They have waived that so you can immediately apply, mostly because they are so far behind in processing these that they have to get these. Now, keep in mind that once they have processed them, the payments that you receive will go back retroactively to the day you applied. So if you go ahead and apply, you're better off than waiting until, you know, they've calmed down enough to do it. Other information. The SBA has a lot of loans ready for businesses. We just did a class on this morning. So if you are interested in those, I can send you the slides to that, and we are going to have the recording for that up on the website, hopefully by Monday. So we'll see. Other provisions that are not tax related. They put nutrition waivers in there so that they could provide meals for students who normally receive free lunch at school when the school is closed. And what this has done is it provided funding for those nutrition programs so that they can either get more in food stamps, or a lot of the schools are providing meals that you drive up and get your meals for that day for your student. If your employer has not actually closed their business or cut hours, they are required to provide paid sick and family leave time. If somebody in your family is sick, it's up to $511 a week if you are the one, or a family member is actually sick, but it has to be with the virus, not, you know, it can't be a common cold or something like that. And up to $200 a week if your kid's school or daycare has closed down. And so you don't have any provisions for that. They also have put in the testing. If you need to be tested, or if you need to go to the doctor for the virus, all healthcare plans have to cover it with no copay, including, you know, and that includes all of them: Medicare, TRICARE. You know, if you're on, it doesn't matter what kind of a health plan you're on, they have to cover it with no. And you don't have to pay anything out of pocket for those. Questions? I told you this would be a really fast one. The other ones were a lot longer. So what questions do you have? Anybody have any questions? Everybody's being really quiet. I know you've been listening to me a lot today. Okay. So if you need anything, or if you just want to talk through how to do business continuity, or how to do all these payroll loans and things like that, give me a call. Go to our website. You can schedule an appointment right there, and we'll be ready to go. You sure you don't have any questions? Okay, then I guess we're all done. So I will, yeah? Mauricio, did you have a question?
No, thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
Sounds good, Cindy. Thank you.
Okay, I will see you guys later. You have a good day and stay healthy.
You too, Cindy. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.